my name is Andrew Betwain. I'm the editor of fundoperator.com, and today I'm joined by Angus Milne, the Director of Risk and Compliance at TCI Fund Management. Angus is going to be speaking at our Fund Operator Summit Europe on the 15th of November in 2022 in London. He'll be speaking on a roundtable discussion entitled Redefining Operational Resilience, the Required Budgeting for Black Swan Events, Technology Fail Scenarios, and the Growth of Cybersecurity Threats. Angus, hello, how are you?
Good morning. Doing well, thank you.
Great to have you here. So I'm just going to dive straight into the questions that they're going to be really interesting to hear the answers to. So my first question is, how is operational resilience changing for fund operators? And do we need to refine the term a little bit in the modern scenario?
Yes, I think with the passing of the years and everything, the new things that happened, which have been quite a few of them in the last 2 or 3 years, that redefines it. So I think it's experience that defines it and refines it, rather than trying to plan for what you might think might happen. It's just you have to just take account of what has happened and try and pick up pieces and learn from those.
It's really interesting. Yeah, they're sort of building on previous experience. So that leads me on to my sort of second questions, which what are some of the major emerging risks that firms should be considering? This, everything from the black swan events to technology fail scenarios and the growth of cybersecurity threats, which I think is going to be obviously a major concern for people at the moment with the current circumstances we're in. So what are you seeing here, and what would you advise?
I don't know. I'm always cautious about planning for a black swan event, simply because you don't know what it's going to be, so you can't. So all you hope for is that you have some flexibility in your budgets, in your systems, and that can just take account of the unexpected, something that you haven't planned for, you can't think about. And yes, technology fail scenarios is technology fails. I mean, best will in the world, your broadband goes down. You can't do anything about that, but it sort of happens. I don't know, your someone cuts through a cable outside your office and there's no power. There's all sorts of those sorts of technological fails that are really outside your control. But if you've got alternative power supplies, if you've got that would be brilliant. But not many people either can have them or do have them. We've been through a period whereby we've all had to learn to work competently away from the office on a permanent basis, and now a less permanent basis. Hopefully that will continue. And we've all learned how to adapt to new technologies on video conferencing, on just the use of other alternative technologies that they were there, but we just weren't commonly using them 5 years ago. Cybersecurity. It's interesting because I was being shown some stats just earlier this week that was suggesting that ransomware was beginning to fade away because of a combination of firms have done more, or companies generally have done more to protect themselves from ransomware, or were being able to resolve it more quickly if it did happen, and it was therefore going out of fashion. The question I then asked is what's replacing it, but I didn't get an answer on that one. So I think you've always got to be aware of cybersecurity threats. You've always got to be aware of what might come through. It's however quickly you are thinking about it, there's someone out there who's probably much more clever than you are, and can think up a new way of attacking your systems. And it's just a continual battle to keep, if not on top of it, certainly climbing up the hill.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point of it's a never-ending learning journey, and there's always going to be something new. You mentioned there about budgets and sort of, having a good plan there. So that leads me on to my next question, which is, what are some of the key things that fund operators should be doing now to build resilience and prepare? So that idea of you'll never know what's coming next, but you can always have a good plan and reserve, and or as you mentioned, sort of money on hand and budgeted correctly to sort of ease the shock a bit. Is that your sort of idea of what you would do?
Yeah, I think so. And with the FCA's new financial rules for managers, we've all had to be preparing our ICARAs in recent weeks, or will be doing it if you haven't done yet. And there, it's a perfect example of where you're forced into actually thinking about what are the other risks that you are facing, and do you or should you be holding additional capital to protect yourself against that? And you then look at, well, what insurance have you got? What other sort of mitigating factors have you got that you think you can protect yourself against just holding another bunch of capital that is sitting there, perhaps not earning as much as it should do because you're keeping it liquid. And but yes, I mean it is eventually coming down just to a process of saying, well, just in case, perhaps I should be putting another lump of money there.
Okay, so we've got those ideas of looking at all the different sectors to make sure that you're planning ahead. So let's look a little bit to the immediate past that we just went through. So what are the key lessons that we should have learned from the pandemic when it comes to dealing with the unexpected? What were you mentioned there about working from the office, having that good technology, having your broadband, anything else that you learned that you think would be an interesting idea for people to embrace that maybe they haven't so much?
Ooh, that's a challenge. I think it's probably just to recognise that your staff are probably much more flexible and much more capable of adapting to things than we all anticipated. We were not trying to suggest we foresaw it, but we'd come to a conclusion as a company before the lockdown occurred, like 2 years before, that for our disaster recovery business continuity stuff, we no longer needed off-sites because people wouldn't use them. Everyone had laptops so that everyone could be working from home. Why don't we just do it that way? And we'd been sort of building up to this so that each team was taking time off to be working, not time off, to work from home rather, to make sure that all the systems worked and that they could sort of communicate with each other and with the outside world. And we just about completed that process when suddenly we had to put it into practice, which was a bit of a sort of steep change there. But at least we felt we had done some of the preparatory work before we got to that point, and that was really helpful. And you need a strong IT team there to take account of that, because as soon as you don't have everyone in the office, they're being pulled in every direction because someone needs help with that, whether it's just simple things like their broadband doesn't work properly, can they help, to I've got fed up looking at my laptop screen, can I have a bigger screen please? And those are the sort of practical things that we were able to do. Just say, right, send out a whole lot of monitors, and people were able to carry on. And I think it's just being prepared to be flexible. And I think people were and are, and it's just proven to be the case. And I suspect, with loss of commuting time or that gone away, I think most firms are probably seeing a greater hours of work put in by staff. So that they're providing you look after them, they'll look after the company, they'll look after the business, and that's it. It's been a very positive experience that we should not forget, and we should be mindful of that when we're thinking about how to build the company in the future. Well, actually, maybe everybody can help that.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting idea about trusting your employees. I hear a lot of different viewpoints on that. So those are the end of my questions. I'd like to thank Angus for his time today. And if you've been interested in what Angus was saying about operational resilience and what we can learn from the pandemic and what we need to know going forward, as I mentioned, he will be speaking at our Fund Operator Summit Europe conference in London on the 15th of November. So please go to clearpathanalysis.com for more information there. And I'd like to thank Angus for his time today. And I look forward to seeing you at the conference, Angus.
It'll be a pleasure. Look forward to it.